Imagine being stranded in the heart of the icy Andes with only the wreckage of a plane for shelter. This is no hypothetical scenario. It's a real-life nightmare that a group of young men faced back in the autumn of 1972. They were members of a Uruguayan rugby team, flying over the Andes to compete in a match in Chile. Little did they know that their journey would take a horrifying turn, transforming from a sporting venture into a fight for survival. Their aircraft, a Fairchild FH-227 turboprop, was caught in a treacherous storm, and with the visibility near zero, the pilots made a fatal error. The plane, christened Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571, crashed into the unforgiving peaks of the Andes. But the real story begins after the crash, as the surviving members of the team were thrust into a situation that tested the limits of their endurance, resilience, and morality. The wreckage of the plane became their home, their fortress against the merciless cold. The snowy peaks of the Andes, stretching as far as the eye could see, became their world. In this world, they had to confront not just the harshness of nature, but also the fragility of human life and the depths they would have to go to preserve it. In the face of such adversity, the survivors of Flight 571 had to make unthinkable choices. Choices that would challenge their values, their sanity, and their very humanity. Choices that would eventually lead to a miracle in the Andes, a testament to the indomitable spirit of survival that resides in each one of us. This is not just a tale of survival, but a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure and overcome. It's a story of courage, of resilience, of the will to keep going when all hope seems lost. It's a story that takes us to the brink of despair only to pull us back with the power of hope. This is their harrowing tale of survival against all odds. October 13, 1972, a day that started like any other for the Uruguayan rugby team. These young men, full of life and dreams, were embarking on a trip to Chile for a friendly match. They were in high spirits, their hearts filled with the thrill of competition and camaraderie. This was more than just a rugby team, it was a band of brothers. The team, along with their family members and friends, boarded the Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571, unaware that their lives were about to change forever. The Fairchild FH-227D aircraft, a twin-engine turboprop, was their chariot, their bridge to an awaited adventure. In the plane, laughter echoed, stories were shared, and the anticipation of the upcoming game filled the air. The flight, however, was not as smooth as they had hoped. As they traversed the skies, the Andes Mountains loomed below, a stunning yet ominous sight. The weather, initially clear, began to take a turn for the worse. The serene blue sky was replaced by dark, menacing clouds. An intense storm was brewing. Despite the deteriorating weather conditions, their spirits remained high. They were a team, after all, used to facing challenges head-on. But this was a different kind of challenge, one that they were ill-prepared for. They were athletes, not survivalists. They were in a plane, not on a rugby field. The game they were about to play was one of survival, and the stakes were higher than they could ever imagine. The plane began to experience turbulence, shaking violently as the storm raged on. The passengers' laughter turned into gasps of fear. The pilots fought to keep control, but the storm was too powerful, the mountains too close, and then, in the blink of an eye, their world came crashing down. In the aftermath of the crash, a grim reality began to set in. The scene was a horrific tableau of destruction and despair. The once vibrant rugby team, full of life and laughter, was now reduced to a huddle of survivors in the unforgiving cold of the Andes. The wreckage of the aircraft was strewn across the snowy landscape, a stark contrast to the pristine beauty of the mountains. The survivors found themselves in a wilderness of ice and snow, far from the comforts of civilization. The biting cold was relentless and food supplies were scarce. It was a brutal introduction to their new reality. Their initial reactions were of disbelief and shock. They had been on their way to a rugby match, caught up in the thrill of competition and camaraderie. Now they were fighting for their lives in a hostile environment. The transition was jarring, to say the least. The first few days were marked by a desperate scramble for survival. They salvaged what they could from the wreckage, fashioning makeshift shelters from the debris. They rationed the meager food supplies they had salvaged, knowing that it had to last until they were rescued. The survivors huddled together for warmth, their breath misting in the freezing air. Their situation was dire, but they were determined to survive. As the days turned into weeks, the survivors battled not just the elements, but their own despair. The realization that they were stranded in the middle of nowhere with no sign of rescue was a heavy burden to bear. It was a test of their mental fortitude, a challenge to keep hope alive in the face of overwhelming odds. Yet, even in their darkest moments, the human spirit shone through. The survivors drew strength from each other, their shared ordeal forging bonds that would last a lifetime. They comforted each other, shared stories, and held on to the belief that they would be rescued. Their camaraderie was their lifeline, their beacon of hope in a sea of desolation. The survivors knew they were in a race against time. The harsh conditions of the Andes were unforgiving, and every day brought new challenges. They were pushed to their limits, their bodies and minds strained to the breaking point. But they persevered, driven by an indomitable will to survive. In the face of such adversity, the survivors displayed remarkable resilience and resourcefulness. They adapted to their harsh environment, using every resource at their disposal to stay alive. They were determined to survive, no matter the cost. But the most challenging part was yet to come. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the survivors would be pushed to the brink. They would be forced to make unthinkable decisions that would test their morality and their humanity. Their struggle for survival was far from over. Faced with the brutal conditions of the Andes, the survivors had to make unimaginable decisions. Stranded in the heart of a harsh, frozen wilderness, the survivors of the Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 faced a grim reality. Food was scarce, and the freezing temperatures were relentless. In the face of these conditions, the survivors were forced to employ every ounce of their resourcefulness and resilience. There was no playbook for survival in these circumstances. The survivors were young, most of them in their early 20s and far from experienced mountaineers. They were rugby players, students, friends. Their world had been one of green fields and school hallways, not snow-covered peaks and sub-zero temperatures. Yet they adapted. They huddled together for warmth, using the wreckage of the plane as a makeshift shelter. They rationed the meager supplies they had salvaged from the wreckage. A few bars of chocolate, a handful of nuts, some bottles of wine. Every scrap of food, every drop of water became a lifeline. But as the days turned into weeks, their supplies dwindled. The thin air of the high altitude, the relentless cold, the physical exertion, all of it took a toll. Their bodies were wasting away, and they knew it. Then came the decision that would mark them forever. The decision that, for many, is the most chilling aspect of their ordeal. In order to survive, they had to turn to the only source of sustenance available to them: the bodies of their dead friends. It was a choice that no one should ever have to make, a choice that pushed them to the very limits of their moral and ethical boundaries. Yet, faced with the stark reality of their situation, they saw no other option. It was a matter of life and death. This act of survival, this ultimate taboo, has been the subject of much debate, but it's crucial to remember the context. These were not cold-blooded killers. They were desperate young men, fighting for their lives in the most extreme circumstances imaginable. The psychological toll was immense. Each day was a battle not just against the elements, but against their own despair. The isolation, the fear, the guilt, they bore it all. Yet even in the face of such adversity, they clung to their humanity. They prayed, they comforted one another, they held on to hope. They also organized themselves, allocating tasks and making collective decisions. They established routines, creating a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. They even held daily meetings where they would discuss their plans and motivate each other to keep going. And through it all, they never lost sight of their ultimate goal: to get out of the mountains alive. They knew that rescue was unlikely, that they were, in all probability, on their own. But they refused to give up. They refused to let the Andes claim them. In those grueling weeks, they were tested in ways that most of us can't even begin to comprehend. They faced the darkest aspects of human existence, and yet, they also demonstrated the incredible strength of the human spirit. They showed that even in the face of unimaginable adversity it's possible to endure, to fight, to survive. Yet, amidst the despair, a glimmer of hope emerged. Two brave men, Nando Parrado and Roberto Canessa, decided to do the impossible. In the frigid heart of the Andes, a decision was made that would forever alter the course of their lives. Both men, barely more than boys, determined to traverse the mountains, a formidable barrier of rock and ice that rose like a wall between them and civilization. Roberto Canessa, a medical student, and Nando Parrado, whose sister and mother perished in the crash, were driven by a shared, unwavering resolve to survive. They knew the odds were against them. They were aware that they were ill-equipped, undernourished, and battling the constant threat of hypothermia. But they had something that the elements could not touch: an indomitable spirit. They set out on their desperate trek armed with makeshift gear, a crude map, and a rugby ball that served as a makeshift canteen. Their journey was a battle against not just the elements, but also their own physical limits. Every step was a victory against exhaustion, every breath a defiance of the thin mountain air. This was not a journey measured in miles, but rather in the sheer willpower it took to put one foot in front of the other. Night after night, they huddled together for warmth, their sleep haunted by the friends they'd left behind. Day after day, they pressed on, driven by a singular thought: survival. They traversed treacherous ice fields, climbed steep cliffs, and navigated deep gorges, their path often dictated by the unyielding mountain terrain. They faced avalanches that threatened to sweep them away and blizzards that reduced visibility to near zero. Yet, they pressed on, their spirit unbroken. Despite the odds, 10 days into their journey, they spotted a sign of human life far in the distance. A tiny speck that turned out to be a herd of cattle. The sight spurred them on, lending them the strength to push through their exhaustion and continue their trek. Their journey was a testament to the sheer force of human will. They faced adversity with resilience, their determination fueled by the hope of rescue, not just for themselves, but for the friends they'd left behind. In the face of overwhelming odds, Parrado and Canessa's desperate trek across the Andes serves as a reminder of the lengths to which humans will go to survive. Their story is one of an unyielding spirit, of friendship forged in adversity, and of the incredible strength of the human will to survive. Their determination paid off when they finally found help. Against all odds, Parrado and Canessa had done the impossible. They had crossed the Andes, and in doing so, they had not only saved their own lives, but also those of their friends who had been left behind in the wreckage of the ill-fated flight. The moment they had all been waiting for had finally arrived: rescue. After a grueling 10-day trek, Nando Parrado and Roberto Canessa managed to find help, making contact with a Chilean arriero, or muleteer, named Sergio Catalan. Despite the language barrier and the unbelievable tale the two men recounted, Catalan understood the gravity of their situation. He set off to alert authorities, setting into motion a rescue operation that would finally bring an end to the survivors' harrowing ordeal. The news of the survivors spread like wildfire, sparking a whirlwind of media coverage. Journalists from around the world descended upon the Andes, eager to capture every moment of the unfolding drama. Helicopters were dispatched, and on the 22nd of December, more than 2 months after the crash, the first survivors were airlifted from the crash site. The remaining survivors were rescued the following day. For the survivors, the rescue was a bittersweet moment. While they were overjoyed to be going home, they were also leaving behind the final resting place of their friends and teammates. The mountains that had been their prison were also a stark reminder of the price they had paid for their survival. The aftermath of the rescue was fraught with challenges. The survivors had to grapple with the psychological trauma of their ordeal. They were haunted by the memories of their friends who did not make it, and they wrestled with the guilt of having survived when so many others did not. The media, too, played a significant role in shaping the narrative of their survival. The survivors were initially hailed as heroes, their story a testament to the indomitable human spirit. However, when the truth about their survival tactics came to light, public opinion shifted. the survivors faced harsh criticism and judgment, their actions sparking a global debate on morality and survival. In the face of such adversity, the survivors found strength in each other. They banded together, using their shared experiences to support one another as they navigated the difficult path to recovery. They found solace in their shared experience and in time were able to reclaim their narrative, speaking openly about their struggles and the difficult decisions they had to make. Today, the story of Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 serves as a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. The survivors have shown us that even in the face of unimaginable adversity, it is possible to find strength, to endure, and to survive. The survivors of Flight 571 had endured the unimaginable and lived to tell the tale. The miracle in the Andes serves as a testament to human resilience. This tale, as chilling as the snow-capped peaks of the Andes themselves, reveals the astounding depths of the human will to survive. It's a story of a group of individuals who, when confronted with unimaginable adversity, refused to succumb. In the face of despair, the survivors of the crash exhibited courage and strength that transcended the realm of the ordinary. They made unthinkable sacrifices and tough decisions, pushing the boundaries of human endurance and morality. Their story poses a question to each of us. What would we do in the face of such dire conditions? The survivors' resilience teaches us about the power of hope. Even when stranded in the unforgiving landscape of the Andes, the survivors clung to the belief that they would be rescued. This unwavering hope was a beacon that guided them through the darkest hours. Their story also underscores the importance of unity. The survivors knew that to make it through, they had to rely on each other. They understood that survival was not an individual effort, but a collective one. Finally, the miracle in the Andes reminds us of the fragility of life and the strength of the human spirit. It's a story that challenges our understanding of what it means to survive and ultimately what it means to be human. A reminder that even in the face of the harshest conditions, the human spirit can triumph. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of history's most incredible survival stories. If you're intrigued by tales of courage, resilience, and the indomitable human spirit, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We have a lot more extraordinary narratives waiting for you. Don't forget to comment and share your thoughts about this astounding tale. Until next time, remember, every day is a chance for a new story. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay sinister.